budget year.
Right.
But we're gonna end up pushing some further.
Take it away.
There are 5 shelters in this current year budget, and I presented where the locations are. I think Magnolia Place is one. There is one located at Nottaway Manor. There is, goodness gracious, I'm not gonna be able to remember, but,
I typed them in the minutes.
oh my word.
There's one at Peel, but you're gonna have to push that one because of the construction.
Magnolia
Peel
Place,
Manor?
Highway Manor. See where my arrow is?
Birch Street.
Peel Manor, Magnolia Place, Nottaway Manor, O.D. Duncan's apartments, I think are called Man Street Apartments.
Yeah.
And Academy Square on Lunenburg Avenue. Those are the 5. There are 2 additional, and what we're planning on right now is putting one at VUMAC, and one would be in between Dave McCormick's 2 new buildings that he's doing, the town shop and the 40-unit apartment building on College. And we tried to do them all 7 this year, but DRPT said that they wanted to put the other 2 off for another year. So the shelters are sitting there in a box. Ben saw them today when I was up there, and they're sitting in the parking lot. We're ready to do it. I guess we're ready to go now and move forward. I did tell B&B Consultants, hold off on that until we have East End designed and bid and ready to go. So this will be the next design project.
So the council made the recommendation that we approve the budget as presented for us. For
Are you
her.
making a motion, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Nash has moved to approve the bus shop's proposed budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Almond has seconded.
It's just for clarification, so that the dollar amounts in there, it's for $977,112
Yes, 900, yeah,
and 1 penny?
right, correct.
Okay.
Since the dollar amount's over the threshold, I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Almond.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have a item on the consent agenda, and it is use of the batting cages. Is there anyone here to represent this request?
No, Mr. Andrews just sent me the email, and I told him I would include it in the packet.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, noting that it's providing for the youth in the county.
Second.
Mr. Nash has made the motion, and I'll give the second to Mr. Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none.
And obviously, we'll relay to Mr. Andrews that property should be kept, trash picked up, whatnot. I don't think there'll be any.
We haven't had trouble with them in the past. Yeah.
Hearing none, motion carries 6-0, Madam Clerk. Unfinished business number 1, Manager Van Orbit.
Nottaway County budget request last, I believe it was on, maybe even on the 10th of this past month when we had an organizational meeting. Town council did approve 2 budget requests to be submitted to the county. I think the deadline was the 13th of January. One in the amount of $100,000 for weatherization improvements, and a second for $50,000 to assist us with completing our concession stand for the Nottaway Gators football team. The mayor and I did meet with them on the 13th with Ted Costin and Mr. Rourke at Mr. Costin's office.
Mr. Miller joined us in that meeting, too.
Oh, okay. Mr. Miller was there as well. And so we discussed it with the county, and the county did indicate, and I think the number is correct because it parallels what Mr. Rourke had told me previously, that the county's not holding $100,000 of program income from projects that were done many, many years ago, that the number was less than the $100,000, it was more like $72,000. It was at the recommendation of the county administrator that we adjust our request of $40,000 for that weatherization from the $100,000. And I'm presenting that to you. There was a motion made to do the $100,000, whether or not mayor deems fit to have another motion to change it to 40, but we intend on applying for $40,000 based on the recommendation of the county administrator.
I would ask council to move to change the original motion from $100,000 to $40,000.
So moved.
Mr. Miller has made the motion, and I need a second, please.
Second.
Ms. Williams, second. This is under the threshold because we're not appropriating money.
No, this is simply.
This is a request, but there was a motion previously by council and a vote by council.
Was it a roll call? When in doubt, I'll ask for a roll call,
Not gonna be.
Can't hurt.
starting with Mr. Gormers.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Alman, do you want this revisited? We've previously voted.
You're good. Vote.
No.
Okay, all right, Mr. Manager?
Item number 2, I think we handled with the fire station floors.
Yes.
It's already done. Item number 3, task order. This is a little confusing for me and for you, but I will try to explain it as well as possible. Some time ago, we started discussing in Miss Loya Wynn's district, then Sheila Jones's district, about attempting to do a community development block grant, very similar to that which was done on the east end, that had been done on the west end, Church Street projects. In order to do so, there are several items that need to be taken care of. One of which was we needed to prepare a preliminary engineering report, and we did this some time ago. This task order was for $25,000 in order for us to submit, and if you guys remember, we submitted back in the spring to the Department of Health an ARPA-related grant loan application for 3 activities. The first of which was the aeration project, the second of which was the replacement of the raw water line, and the third item in the application was for improvements in the Taylor Bottom neighborhood. In order to make that application, we had to have this PER done. So we have the PER. It's been completed. The ARPA money paid for it was not town money. However, as we move forward and we get into the actual applications, which I'll be asking you to authorize our submittal, I do want to have a task order, and the town clerk pointed out that we did not actually have a signed task order, and although the work has been done, I am asking you to ratify the task order for the work that has already been done and paid for with ARPA funds.
What's council pleasure on this? We need a motion to authorize the manager to execute the task order engaging the services of B&B Consultants for the Taylor Bottom project for $25,000.
So moved.
Mr. Miller has made the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Gorman says second. Any discussion? Again, we're over the threshold for the dollar figure, so I ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Alman.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Sorry, excuse me, may we add to that we're ratifying what has already been done?
That'd be up to Mr. Miller. It'd be up to Mr. Miller.
Okay, thank you.
Let the record reflect that, please.
We're going to ask for ratification again, and this one's going to be an eye-popper. The second is an application for infrastructure funding from the Department of Environmental Quality. If you remember, the Department of Health handles water issues, DEQ, sewer issues. In order to be eligible for ARPA money and infrastructure money from DEQ, they had a call for applications. They said, put in what you think you may need to do, and a portion of that is included in this application on the sewer side. We just talked about the water side, but the sewer side. The application was due in December, includes improvements to the Hurricane Branch Interceptor, which is the sewer line that crosses under Route 40 near the fire training grounds and runs back to approximately Lina Judah Church. And there's some diagrams in here. We did throw the application, and we are not obligated to accept anything. But the application is in the amount of $5,954,107. We are not under obligation to accept it, but if we did not apply, we would be eligible for none of it. And I'm asking for ratification for the application, and I promise I'm not trying to wedge you into a $6 million.
What's the in-kind if we do get it?
I don't think it would be in kind because it's more of a loan type situation. The majority of it will be loan. There may be a grant portion or what DEQ and the Department of Health call principal forgiveness. So they don't call it a grant, they call it principal forgiveness, and that's a government bureaucrat's term. There may be a portion of that, like there was on the sewer project that we did on College, Lunenburg, all that 10, 12 years ago.
How would you prioritize, and that's going to be hard because all of it's very important, a trunk line like this as opposed to the main raw water line coming from Pickett?
I would say the raw water line would take precedent.
Would that help us any as far as going out there on 460, putting in water? Could any of that money be used?
You mean going up Cox Road?
Yeah.
None of it's included because the county kind of dawdled. We never applied for any monies from the county for any of that stuff. This is sewer. The water application was due in the spring last year. And that was, Cox Road was a water line project, and they never gave us an answer about whether we could mandate connections or run a water line in the county until fairly recently. But when we submitted that health department water application, I would say probably in April, thereabouts, it only included those three elements: tailored bottom, raw water line, and the aeration system.
I just don't want us getting too happy with spending money, but if this is not committing us to it.
You are not committed, absolutely not. But we've got water and sewer needs. I'm telling you, that trunk line
Absolutely, I understand that.
is
but-
causing some an appreciable amount of sand and silt to get into Jack Branch Pump Station. Is causing Andre some headaches over there.
Council, you've heard the request from the
Move,
town
move
manager.
to ratify the application.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded. Any discussion? I ask for a roll call vote from Mr. Alman.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is, let's see, the East End, what is it? What's the next item?
Curb and gutter, and that
Curb and
is
gutter.
the new paperwork at your desk.
Right, does everybody have a copy of the new paperwork? East End Curb and Gutter Award. This is the paperwork to receive.
We received, we opened the bids on the 18th, and engineer's estimate for the work was $830,000, and the actual base bid, when we opened it, was $827,000. That $827,000 was within the engineer's estimate, but it exceeds cash on hand. And cash on hand is $462,000 of grant money and $300,000 from that the town has, and we've saved for this project. We have the cash sitting in a money market account. So our budget really is $762,000 total, including engineering, okay? So we had to go back and negotiate. Randy Jones went back and negotiated with S. Walker Construction. Most of y'all will know from here in Blackstone. Does a good job with concrete. He did the South Main concrete that we just recently finished, several other projects. After reviewing it with Walker and with our engineers, we decided that it would be in our best interest to use the lower prices for paving that we've already bid out. New guys, you may not remember, but those of you who are here, if you remember, we bid out paving and tar and gravel or surface treatment projects back in the fall. And Southern Paving is our paver of record. It was going to do the pavement, certainly the topping, on the East End project. Okay, and that's our big paving project for this coming up year. And their prices per unit, per ton and per square yard are much less than what Jason's bid. Okay, so Jason has gone back through, and he has, because we took the asphalt out of his project to use it at a lower price of a bid that we already have in place, and he has committed in writing that he would honor his prices. Jason's budget now is at $674,959. Excuse me, $950.
So you, instead of, if it's not gonna be,
It's thick. So what the engineer has done with Southern Paving is, instead of doing a 5-inch
right,
with a 3-inch base and a 2-inch top, and I told you wrong today, it's not 3 inches, it'd be 2 inches. However, I think we still need to do the full depth base and the 2-inch top around the entrances at Garrett Moon Pool, where anybody's gonna drive a truck across it. We gotta be a little cautious about that. But by dropping his down to $674,000, that will leave us about $306,000 to still do the paving in the spring. It's your VDOT money, paving money,
I was about
VDOT
to
money.
say, because I'm coming up with $88,000 is what, if you take Jason's $152,000 out for the paving, and what we have on hand,
Yeah, but
You're left with
that
$88,000.
762 is only the curb and gutter concrete portion. We still gotta pave it, and that will be at our forthcoming VDOT payment in March, because that's our big paving project for the year that we've already bid out.
but in the original price, it includes paving at $827, correct?
Just the base. The 3 inches of base, not the top coat.
Was,
Is that what the original bid asked for, paving?
The original bid
Or the
did ask for
original
3 inches of
part.
base asphalt to go in, yes.
so were the other,
But that's not including the base asphalt that we already bid out that was gonna fill the utility cuts and do a portion of it over on the very end of Tavern Street. We had, our original bid with Southern Paving was 465 tons of base asphalt.
were the other, did this change, obviously it did not change, I guess, from what I'm reading, prior to bid opening, correct? Or bids being received,
What changed?
this change order
No, the change order came about after the bids were open,
Noticed we didn't
and I
have
told
enough money.
Randy, no go, I don't have the
Well, then,
cash.
is it fair to those that did bid to not have the same option to be able to lower their price?
Well, if you look at the bid tab up there, no one else bid.
Were there not any other interested parties?
There were 3 parties that received sets of plans that were a plan holder list, KCH Contracting, who did the water and sewer previously in the East End, Virginia Carolina Paving that I have not worked for before. Virginia Carolina did show up for our pre-bid meeting, as did S. Walker. KCH did not show up for the pre-bid, but did get a set of plans, and end of the day, nobody bid except S.W. Walker.
Why would you think no one would, I mean, it's not any fault of ours, but you would think people are hurting now, enough contractor-wise.
I don't know. KCH is really a water and sewer guy. I don't think curb and gutter is in their wheelhouse. Virginia Carolina Paving, I just don't know. I don't know why they didn't bid it. He came to the pre-bid and called Randy with several suggestions and corrections and requests for information. But when the time came and we opened the bids and videotaped the opening of the bid, Virginia Carolina Paving was nowhere to be found.
You think there's a possibility that we missed out on bids for just the concrete portion because of the inability to do pavement?
No. I don't think there's any coupling there.
How big is
Because we've already bid out the paving, except for the 3-inch base along the edges of the curb and gutter. All the topping was bid out in October, September last year.
My biggest concern is the fact that, and I understand, we need to finish up this project over there, but, so we're gonna take away the paving that can be done wherever else in town, whether it be Main Street or Broad Street, whatever it be, to do a project that we had budgeted 827? Is that what I'm seeing? And now we can't afford that?
No, that's not
So,
correct.
okay,
We have $762,000
one hand.
earmarked to do that project, and then we have $300,000 that you guys had approved the contract with Southern Paving, if you remember, for the additional amount. I think their tonnages and their volumes was gonna be about $276,000. So no.
And in the original documents, was this all planned? I mean, we knew that we were gonna be paying additional for that top coat?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the top coat didn't come out. That was awarded back in October.
Yeah.
The topping and 465 tons of base. So he's gonna have more base, but the same amount of topping in his budget.
So go ahead.
And so
Would it be
everybody
more fair
understands
to-
with the asphalt, there's a base course that has larger stone, and then there's a finer course that goes on top that doesn't have the same bearing strength, but it makes it drive smoother.
Out of fairness to other potential bidders, do you think it'd be fair to rebid with the change order in there?
You can rebid it if you want. I don't think it's a matter of fairness, because I don't think they didn't submit a bid. They chose not to participate in the
It could have
project.
been because of the
And
pavement.
then there's
It has
Walker.
nothing to do with the paving, because the
Yeah.
paving was awarded separately and was not included in this bid. Only the base,
The
base.
Which I
Only the
consider
base.
paving. I don't know, I'm not a construction.
which is $123,000 out of a $827,000 project.
So the
Out of-
827 plus, what do you think is gonna be our estimate to do?
I'm using
top coat?
306, which is your VDOT payment. That's what I've all been expecting and budgeting and
We've
planning.
been expecting all along to use that 300.
306.
306?
And I think based on the tonnages that Southern Paving, that we presented to you with the bids was 276,000.
Was that 306 part of our calculating of in-kind money that when we were,
No. It was above.
Out of fairness to the other bidders, or potential bidders, make a motion to rebid with the change order to include the changes with the base.
I got a question. You talking about rebidding. These people in the East End have suffered long enough with this water that they can't drive their cars. Big old holes in the road. Why you wanna hold it up?
well,
I mean,
paving can't get done for another
well,
3 months
but what I'm
anyway.
saying, you
Probably
talking
March
about,
is the earliest or before.
right,
the
but
paving.
you talking about rebidding, how long is that gonna take?
2 weeks.
No, it'll take about 2 months to rebid.
2 months, right?
You advertise 2
Advertising
weeks.
times? No,
Right.
we advertise a month,
Excuse me, gentlemen.
to be fair.
We have a motion. I want a second, then we'll have discussion, please. Is there a second to restate your motion, Mr. Allman?
I make a motion to rebid the project with the change order noted out, or taken out, I should say. I don't know what the proper terminology would be there, but with the adjustments that were allowed to be made after the bids were opened, put in there to make it a fair bidding.
In
process.
compliance with state law.
Yes.
Is there a
You're
second?
allowed to negotiate with the lowest bidder.
Say, wasn't that?
State law says that, once you open bids, the apparent low bidder, you're allowed to negotiate with the apparent low bidder. You can go back and do what we're doing. What can we take out? What can we add? How do we get ourselves into budget? So, it was done. I want everybody to very clearly understand that what Randy has done, what I have done, doesn't violate anything.
I didn't think it
It's legal
violated
to
anything.
talk to
It was
folks.
just enough of a, it's a pretty, I mean, that's a,
You
over
had
it.
one bidder and you
It-
negotiated with him.
That's all we had. That's all we had.
Second.
So-
But you can't negotiate with multiple bidders, only with the apparent low bidder. And if a deal can't be done, then you can go to the second bidder. But you can't throw it out to everybody and say, who wants to take a bite of this?
as a contractor in my day job, that's a pretty big change to the RFP that could change whether I bid on the project or not. I mean, it was 100,000. How much? How much?
$152,000.
$152,000 worth of
About
work.
15% of the project.
If 15% is a
But
significant
you
amount
got
of work.
somebody that you know might do it cheaper or something?
No, I don't.
Bullshit.
Easy.
And in order for us to bid it out, we take 30 days to advertise. Otherwise, we're pressing and we're pushing it. And if we want to be fair, and if that's the intention, we need 30 days, and then we got to open bids, and then we come back to council.
got a
So you're looking at 60 days to rebid it.
So, the adjustment you've asked us to make, that'll get the project done?
Get the project done.
Okay.
That was my goal, was to get the project done with the available
in budget.
resources we got.
In budget, and there won't be anything else to do.
Well, I'm hoping it won't be, we don't find any burial ground, but we've dug the place up and the roads are tore off pieces.
Any more discussion for Mr. Almond's motion?
Is there a second?
There is a second. Mr. Nash has seconded. We'll start with a roll call vote with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay. Motion dies 4-2. I open the floor up now for a motion to approve the bid from S. Walker Construction for the East End project. Is there a motion?
In the amount of $674,950.
Mr. Miller has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Page is seconded. We'll start a roll call vote with Mr. Almond.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-2. Next item of business, Mr. Van Norbert,
Hang on, let me warm old Bessie up here.
Town Square. Next item is
Town Square, we have included in your packet an advertisement. I think the town council had asked that we solicit RFPs for activities or event planning and that sort of thing. For, I think, promote concert events, family gatherings, and venues for entertainment available to the public. We did receive one proposal back. It is also included in your packet. And I don't think the individual that submitted that is looking for an answer, and he indicated that he was not going to be here tonight. Sent an email to Jennifer and I, said he wasn't coming. And I'd like for council to consider this, maybe refer to committee, that sort of thing. I don't think there's a hot deadline on this of any kind. So if you would deem appropriate, if the council wants to handle it as a whole, we can come back next month. Or if you'd like to refer it to committee to.
What's council's pleasure?
I think when the individual is ready to talk, go to committee possibly, buildings and property.
I don't know why, I guess I'm wondering why we're considering selling it. We have a position, we interviewed for the other night that's gonna be having, part of the job description is having activities there and helping the town.
I don't think the
That's a valid
town's ever, I think buying it has consistently been this individual's preference. I don't
Thank you
think
for
the town
visiting, Mayor.
council's ever indicated that they were interested in selling it. I think only that he has pursued buying it,
Yeah, we have never up here said we want to sell it.
yeah.
He just came forth to us and said, I would like to, and we said, well, look, it's our due diligence to at least accept this right here. which
He
is what
originally
says.
wanted to buy it, but I think council wisely and rightfully said, we need to look at some other options, because I didn't sense then, and I don't know about now, but I didn't sense the last council there was interest in selling it.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
correct.
not, I'm not interested in selling it.
Well, then, if that's the case, then if you want to make a motion to reject his offer,
I mean, we could always
Part
look
of
at
the
leasing.
proposal is
then we can, if that's the case, then maybe we do that.
I think the committee thing would be the right,
Yeah.
go back to committee, because I think he's willing to lease it.
Okay.
I think there's a lease. However, he would like
Well-
any lease payments to be applied towards the purchase and that sort of thing, so.
Okay.
Any town of Blackstone reserves the right to reject any and all proposals as part of the information as well.
My only point is that Mayor Colburn's right. The council speaks through its motions, and I'm hearing this, that there's no interest to sell, and I'd like it to be on the record.
I make a motion that we not sell this project at this time.
Excuse me.
Do
Second.
you want, do you want it to reject this, or what do you want the motion?
No, the motion is that we do not sell the property,
Okay.
except at all. And
So-
that is Mr. Gormas, and who was the
So you're leaving the lease
second was
option
Mr.
open?
Nash?
Sell or lease, no.
You said sell or lease.
I think it's, we owe, I
said
think
something
what
with
his
lease.
question is, or what his point is that we're looking to possibly hire somebody to make that space more functional. So it's due diligence, let's give them a little bit of chance to try to put their best foot forward.
It's actually in the MOU that they would be responsible for the scheduling and
Would you change
So forth.
the motion to at this time, in case we decide to lease it?
What are y'all
later?
saying, we're not interested at this time in doing it?
Yeah.
I don't know what
the
everybody
motion
else is.
said
I'm
not
not,
Sell or lease at this
personally.
time.
Hold
I
on,
mean, I
Gonna
think
give DBI a year.
Said sell.
hold on, wait,
I won't leave it
hold
open.
on just a second, please. So the motion is to not sell or lease. Is that, are you seconding that or just to sell?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would like, I mean, I think it's, well, we don't need to add anything to that because I think it's already gonna be evaluated, the performance of the DBI position a year from now anyway. So
I have an idea. It looked to me like if the gentleman wanted to use the property, that he should work through DBI to lease it through them.
That's a great idea.
Well, we've had other,
Is that, will you make a substitute motion or amend your motion to
Well,
that?
anyone that wants to use it, I mean, it's like Sea Park, it's part of town, right? I mean, you have to request.
I'd like to make it clear that we're tasking DBI with the lease of this property,
the usage.
the usage of
Yeah.
it.
that's great.
I think that'd be great.
Would you change your motion to that?
To not sell or lease at this time and let DBI manage the use of the park?
That is what I'm trying to get to.
Then I make that
And
motion.
You know,
you, second's agreeable. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Van Orvik? I think the next item is
Electrical engineering award RFP. Because we hadn't done so previously, in order to bring ourselves into compliance with state procurement, the town of Blackstone has been using Progressive Engineering, I think since 1984, as an engineering consultant to help Dan with improvements to the system, SCADA systems, that kind of thing. We had not procured this kind of services, certainly in my tenure, and possibly since 1984. Town clerk and I agreed that it probably the smartest thing to do, just put it out there, advertise it, and see what came back. And of course, we received one proposal. And the one proposal is from Progressive Engineering Consultants. It's an hourly on-call as needed. There's not a monthly payment or an annual payment that we're obligated to. He bills us as we use his services, and I would recommend that we continue a very fruitful relationship with Progressive Engineering Consultants, and they are from Charlotte, North Carolina, and they are our current provider. And authorization to execute the,
members of council, you heard the recommendation from Manager Van Orbeck, and you have the contract and rates so mentioned. Is,
To approve.
Mr. Nash moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams, second. I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Allman.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Quick question.
Oh,
Do we know roughly what we expend with this individual or with this firm over a year's time? Obviously, it varies, but I didn't know.
I'll get back to you. I really don't know.
I
right
was just
offhand.
curious. It's
I
not
don't know.
it's not gonna change anything. I was just,
I can take it. We'll get it to all the council people.
Okay.
We'll get it done.
we've already dispatched item 7. We'll move on to item 8. It's Northwest Avenue ditch. Manager Van Orbeck, would you like to report?
I've included a couple plans for you. I think there's some consternation with some in the neighborhood about what we did and what we didn't do as far as the Northwest Avenue. What we did was we included, when I instructed the engineers and what I instructed the contractors to do, was to build or fill in a pretty significant ditch on the west side of Northwest Avenue, which was the origination of the request. Originally, if you guys remember, those of you that were here, Sheila Jones brought us this request from a gentleman named Robert Evans, that lived on the west side of Northwest Avenue. He really did have a tremendous problem over next to his house. And then there was a request from a gentleman who I think is here in the audience, Mr. Somerville, to also include piping in the ditch next to his home and on his property. In doing so, the instructions to the council, or to the contractors and engineers, design something that would get Bobby Evans some safety and security, and we, in the drawings, actually ran it to the back of his property, which is adjacent to his house. He's got a tremendous ditch over there if you go over and look at it. And at the same time, I gave the same instructions on Mr. Somerville's side, is to install culvert adjacent to his home. That was done, and I think Mr. Somerville may have some questions or interest in presenting to council. But I think there's some interest in continuing or extending the pipe that was installed.
Mr. Van Orbit, going forward, I'm not scolding, I'm just asking for a favor. If you want council to spend that kind of money, can we please bring plans and/or specs?
If I may clarify one thing, I really didn't want council to spend this kind of money, but at the end of the day, it's a private ditch, and as we discussed privately, yes, I'll provide.
Let me, Mr. Somerville, let me feel the pulse of the council before I call on you, please, sir. So there is no agenda item. It's just up for discussion on whether or not the council should do any additional work to the ditch. So I'll open it up for discussion from the council. Is everybody aware of the ditch we're speaking of? Anybody have any questions about the geography or any history about that ditch? All right.
I thought it was stated that we would go to the end of this man's project. I think that when this project started, I think we got mixed up.
Went back and listened to the tape, and somebody asked me, how far did it go? And I was like, well, maybe to the railroad track,
Right.
which is significantly beyond even his property. I made a mistake. I told you I thought it may go to the railroad track, but
But all along, the plan showed this, correct?
yeah, I mean, the contractor did exactly what he was supposed to, as did the engineers. They designed exactly what they told.
So how much
What's
more
the reason
pipe are
for
we
wanting to-
talking about?
Pardon?
How much more pipe are we talking about?
Depends on how far you want to go. You want to go railroad track? You want to, where you want to?
What is required, what is needed?
I think he said.
What-
that.
What's
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on.
I think you may need to ask Mr. Somerville, because I don't know if there's anything additional needed, myself. If you really want to put some money into something that is a danger and a mess, go back and look at the rest of behind Bobby Evans' property back there. And that's a deep ditch. Mr. Somerville has a ditch, and he's complained on more than one occasion about mosquitoes or snakes or whatever stuff accumulating in the ditch. But the depth of the ditch at Mr. Evans' is probably 12, 15 feet deep.
But we also have residents sitting in this room that complain about snakes on a regular basis as well. And the bad thing is, it's not on their property where the cause is, so that's,
If you guys would like to kind of determine how far you want to go, if you want to go any further on Mr. Somerville, Mr. Evans is very happy. He's
Yeah.
thankful and very appreciative. And we try to keep it on the same, preserve Mr. Evans' house and make sure that we did the same type of thing for Mr. Somerville. If you want to go further, by all means, we can go further, absolutely, and I can come back with a budget and cost estimate. I think premature to vote tonight. I think what you need to do, and I don't have the money right now. Anything that happens has got to be in the budget, okay? Anything, because cash, we've already got the armory, we've got East End, we've got plenty of things to spend the money on right now. But if you guys come back and say, we want to get to the end of Mr. Somerville's property, I'll give you contact, I'll be happy.
Is there a structural reason to do so?
Huh?
Is there a structural reason to do that?
No, I think it's an open ditch across multiple properties back there. What we were trying to accomplish, why Sheila brought it to us, was because Bobby Evans' house, I mean, there were trees that are actually
it's
falling.
fallen, it
Mhm,
could
it was falling.
endanger
It
the
was a
house.
mess of it. And that really was what got council interested in doing it, is to preserve Mr. Evans' house. But Mr. Somerville had already also asked, and I think there multiple email traffic between him and the mayor and myself in regards to what are you going to do, what can you do, and being a private ditch. Until we did something next to Mr. Evans' house, we hadn't planned on doing anything with Mr. Somerville. But in fairness, we wanted to make sure we got past his house.
Yeah.
Like we did Mr. Evans.
Mr. Page?
So I'm on the fence about this because I'm not a fan of doing private property, but unless it's a ditch that we worked on and messed up and caused a problem, or it affects entire multiple homes, But I did go back and watch a video, and I think this was covered over several meetings, and I think I caught the one where it was presented to council, and council voted on it, and, our town manager said to council, I believe it starts at the railroad tracks. And so, my question is, what was the intent of council upon approval? I, as a new member, don't know how to vote. You guys were on the council at the time. Did you guys, were you guys under the impression that it went to the railroad tracks?
I voted against it, so I was under the.
What I would like to see council do is to make a decision on either we're done, we've done what's on the plans, or we want to move forward, and that would, I think, would require bringing us a price estimate and the appropriate drawings and the specifications. So I think that's the correct thing. I don't think it's right to drag Mr. Somerville out anymore, so, again, council speaks to its motion, so, I'm listening if anybody wants to make a motion.
Before I make a motion, again, just to clarify, the changes that we be making are aesthetic.
They're not structural, like
The ditch flows water, and it's manageable. That's there.
I haven't seen it flood. I think it's more the concerns that the mayor has provided to me from Mr. Summers. He can speak for himself if he had questions, but more there's snakes, harborage of, unpleasantries over there.
Okay.
No ditches is fun. Ditches are ditches.
Uh,
Not pleasant.
I
Ms.
have a
Williams?
question. It was my understanding from the beginning that Mr. Somerville ditch or issues was affecting Mr. Evans that was flowing over there into his lane, corroding it. So did we fix that what was going into Mr. Evans, making him have that corrosion?
Yeah, that's all been next to Mr. Evans' house.
Yeah,
that's
but
all-
because I thought Mr. Somerville, ditch or whatever was flowing underground over there, so
It
that's
flows
fixed.
under the road, same creek.
Right, so that's
or
resolved.
whatever we call it, a conveyance.
Well, it's still got the same water going under the road, but it's cleaned up.
You can't
So if
see
we
it.
don't fix it, it's gonna, Mr. Evans gonna have a problem in the future.
No, I mean,
So
you're
that's-
gonna still, even if you take it all the way to the railroad, it's gonna still be the same water that comes out at Mr. Evans' property, but Mr. Evans' property has been rectified.
This water actually comes under the railroad tracks from over Division Street.
I'm not sure we're giving Ms. Williams the answer she's looking for, okay? Are you, if I can help here,
Yes, help me.
are you saying that what's been done now is fix the problem structurally?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we went next to both houses. Now, the portion that Mr. Somerville would like us to continue the property line or further back, that's just an open ditch without any structures immediately adjacent to it.
Can you go out and get the prices and come back and let us know?
If you tell me how far you want to go. I can
I
get a
think we
linear
should go,
footprint
he wants to go, he says he's satisfied if we go to the end of his property line,
to the end of the property.
end of the property.
That's
But
over
that's a-
double of what is currently there, by looking at the map, just roughly. I don't have a
Oh,
scale.
That's
Another 40
and that's just a big
Over
cost to the
40 feet.
taxpayer for, what I'm hearing is an aesthetic issue.
What you mean?
Meaning if the ditch is structural, if the ditch has been spec'd and made to flow water, and the issues with Mr. Evans' house have been fixed,
No.
Mr. Mayor,
I,
sorry, go ahead.
We'll get to you, sir.
I was actually gonna say, I'd like to hear from Mr. Somerville if we possibly could.
Absolutely. Mr. Somerville, will you come to the podium? Mr. Somerville,
Yes, sir.
would you state your name and, address for the record, please?
Aaron Somerville, 312 Northwest Avenue, Blackstone.
You have questions, Mr. Page?
Yeah. Oh.
So are you just, tell me what's going on. You're not happy with the project?
For Mr. Evans never came to Sheila. I went to Sheila because of the property. The water is sitting in right beside my yard, and it's stinking. It had my whole house smelling. Yeah, they have snakes and stuff in there and rats and all that stuff, but I came here, and I'm the one that got Mr. Evans to come with me. He won't even coming. And I said, I complained, and everybody said, I told him, I said, the ditches is running down, it's washing the property down. I have a problem. I got a child to be outside playing. The ditch is filthy. It stinks. It's full of trees falling down. Yeah, Mr. Evans was bad, but he never came. I came for him and talked to Sheila.
Have the trees and all of that have been removed?
Not on my side of the property. If you come there and look, you got water sitting there from the ditch, and the water is coming from somebody dug that ditch years ago, because we didn't dig it.
Waters create their own ditch, I guess, at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, it comes under the railroad track. It comes through the property. So we didn't dig that ditch.
How far on your property are the trees still going? I came and looked at the ditch, and I was under the impression that the ditch had been fixed.
No,
beside
you
your
went
house.
they only gave me 40 feet, and that's not fixing that ditch.
How far does your property line go from the road?
It goes, I think it's like 175 feet. There was Mr. Phillip told me before. It was 175 feet. He came in there and told me, it's like, we're only gonna go past 175 feet. I was cool with that. That's past my property line.
I think that was on both sides of the street, is that
Yeah,
correct?
both sides. And Bobby's side only got, I think the contractor told me it's only 100 foot, which is supposed to be 175. And I didn't get none but 40 foot right there. And the water is still sitting there. If you come there today, water is still sitting there. And in hose, leaves and tree limbs and all that's in the ditch. And I don't think it's right that, I had to pay for it. It's not our property. The town used to clean that property years ago. And I know because I was born and raised there. They just come there and dig that ditch all the way to the railroad track. Cut the trees down all the way to the railroad track. You can stand on my property and look to the railroad track. Then all of a sudden, over the years, they stopped doing it.
But the town never had an easement until recently, correct?
We have an easement now, but I think the town cleaned all private ditches years ago, if you remember.
Looking
Just
at,
as a courtesy.
so looking at the map, the ditch that is now existing, if this is correct, I'm not 100% sure if it's correct. The ditch does not even sit on Mr. Somerville's property, correct?
The pipe doesn't. The pipe that was installed
Doesn't. Okay.
does not. If you look at this actual drawing, it's actually on the adjacent property.
Has the flow of the water increased since the project?
No, it stays there. It just barely trickling through my property. It's still standing hose. And it's sitting there, got leaves and stuff piled up in there. And under my impression, they were gonna clean that whole entire ditch. But I was just satisfied if it go past my property line. But it's still gonna clog up the road to the railroad tracks. But that's gonna be another problem.
That's the point, is where do we eventually stop? There is no stopping point. I mean,
He's telling you that he'd be satisfied if you go to his property line.
correct,
But
but
the
what
next
about the
property
next
owner won't.
person? Then we just push the buck up to them.
Hey, well, you know what? We'll worry about the next person when it comes. See, y'all always putting the horse before the cart.
What
Now,
about these requests that
hold
already?
on, bro. Let's get this straight now. First of all, you started on this project. The man is not satisfied. So you hollering about what the other people gonna say. We will deal with the other people like we dealt with him.
Agree.
I mean, are you scared to talk to people? I mean, what's the problem?
Where have I said I'm scared? I voted no. How is that being scared of anybody, Mr. Miller?
Gentlemen,
Excuse me.
You excuse me.
gentlemen, you're both out of order.
I move that we do not proceed on with the ditch as presented, or keep the ditch as it is, as we have corrected the structural issues that Mr. Evans had down below.
Mr. Evans didn't come up here for that structure. I did. I'm the one that started. Billy Coburn. I emailed Billy Coburn for years. And I came up here and he put me off. He said, well, we didn't have the money. I'm the one that did it.
Well, if you allow me to do my duty, hold
Right.
still here. I have a motion on the floor to leave the project as it is. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allman seconds. Hold on just a minute. I failed to mention that at the beginning of this meeting that we have a body of 6 tonight. And in the unfortunate case that we have a tie, then I will have to break that tie. With that being said, I would like to weigh in. It's not my goal to weigh in on every issue, but if I'm going to be called on the possibility of voting, I would like to weigh in. Is that agreeable to council?
It's agreeable.
So, I just have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Somerville. So,
Yes, sir.
Did one or more council members come to your dwelling and tell you that council voted and this is what was going to happen?
No.
Okay.
Only one I heard when he came out, when I called for him, was Mr. Nash right here. He said, well, I heard him say, if you spend this type of money, they haven't even finished the job. You might as well kept the money, which is true.
I understand that, but did someone contact you after?
No, well,
Hold on, I'm trying to help
okay.
you. Did someone contact you after the council originally voted to do the project?
yes.
Did they describe the project to you?
Yes, they say it's gonna be 175 feet past my property. That's the farthest we can go.
And who was that, sir?
Mr. Phillip.
Both sides of the road.
Yeah, both.
175 total is what I'm hearing. So 40 on one side and
There-
130.
You know,
No.
here's my indigestion, okay? Number one, I am against going on private property to do any ditches. I think we open Pandora's box, it's gonna bankrupt this town. I'm against it, but I'm also against is council, telling you one thing and not backing it up tonight. So I'm telling you that. Is that the case? Is that the case that the council, that he was misled, or?
I don't wanna say misled,
And I don't mean, I'm not saying anything nefarious
Again,
has happened.
it
I'm
goes
just trying to
back-
get to the bottom of
it
it.
goes back to when council votes having the plans of the project. I don't think he was misled on purpose. I watched the videos, I read the minutes, I don't think he was misled, but it was said to believe that it would start at the railroad tracks.
Well, let
So-
me take back that awful term misled, Mr. Manager. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, was he misinformed?
No, I don't remember talking to you except to get the easement. And I showed you the easement plat, and
Yeah, you
Mr.
told.
Somerville signed the easement plat that showed.
Yeah, you told me when you come in there. So as far as I'm going is 175 feet past
We
your
don't have
house.
the money to do this, but we have an obligation to keep our word. So that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom
He
of.
was never told 175 feet on.
Yes, you said 175 feet on
We're not
Bobby's
gonna do
side.
that. Would you have a member of council did
Yes.
a member of council tell you differently?
Yes.
Who is that?
Mr. Phillip.
Now, a member of this council.
Oh, no, I talked to Sheila when she was on here, and she told me it was going to be both sides.
Well, that's all I had. So,
Request
I
for
don't think he was purposely misled, I just think that we,
again,
Not
I
clear
didn't mean,
about
I didn't mean to infer
Yeah.
that. I'm just trying to get information here. I appreciate. Mr. Allman has the floor.
Mr. Somerville, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just I have a fundamental obligation to taxpayers where I don't think that I don't believe in spending tax money on what is viewed as aesthetic. So for instance, I have a ditch in my own yard and I maintain it. I mean, that's just what I have to do as a homeowner. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm glad we got the structural issues fixed. I went by, it looked like it had a nice swell. Maybe you disagree with me, but that's really all I have for it.
I understand.
So looking at the tax map, just if you were to measure, it looks like 110 foot on Mr. Somerville's side. Again, this is roughly, and then so Mr. Somerville's side, or excuse me, 110 on Mr. Evans' side, and then 132 feet would go from the road to the back of Mr. Somerville's property. So you're looking at another 90 foot.
Maybe I have not measured it. I do not know.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any other discussion or council need any other information?
can we reread the motion?
The motion is to do nothing, is to leave the project as it is
Does not proceed with the ditch.
and not proceed with any more ditching. Is there any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Allman.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Motion is defeated 4-2. Is there a motion on the floor for council to proceed with obtaining pricing and drawings for the next available meeting?
So moved.
That motion is made by Mr. Page and seconded by Mr. Gormas. Start a roll call vote, please, with Mr. Allman.
Nay.
Aye.
No.
Motion carries 4-2. Thank you, Mr. Somerville. Do you understand what we're doing here?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna come back and get some pricing, and in the future, I'm gonna beg council that we have all the information we need, and that we know what we're bidding on and what we're approving, and so we don't have this unfortunate situation. I do thank you for your patience and
Yeah,
for
thank
your
you.
demeanor, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Much better than we did up here, I must say.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
We also have a moratorium that we wasn't gonna do anything for 2 years on the ditches, right?
Well, I think the Arms family is gonna take great exception with what's
Well, I think
your
that the
ward,
Arms family was-
Well, we'll cross that, we'll cross, we'll,
I can't win, man.
gentlemen, we'll move on to the next item. And that is the DEQ, is that correct, Mr. Manager?
Just want to be clear, we didn't pass any work to be done on anything.
No.
We just
No,
asked-
no, we just
Simply
asked
Yeah,
for
price.
prices, just
That's
asked for
right.
That's all,
prices.
surprising.
Which is a legit, it is, yes.
Right, yeah.
But I'm sorry, I just didn't feel the need, if there was no interest, there's no need to prolong it with Mr. Somerville.
100% agree.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. We all gonna disagree on something.
Oh, absolutely.
But we need to do it as gentlemen.
That's where,
We need to disagree as gentlemen.
Hey, that's me. I'm gonna say what's on my mind, you know, no hard
I'm gonna
feelings.
carry on here. Mr. Manager, we're talking about the DEQ litter grants.
Town of Blacksmith's been awarded 2 litter prevention and recycling grants, one in the amount of $12,500 and the second amount of $4,402.50 for a total of $16,902, and 50 cents. These funds are earmarked for the town to host a household hazardous waste day. And it's like an amnesty day for residents only, citizens only of the town of Blackstone can bring to us things that typically cannot go in the landfill. Pesticides, herbicides, Roundup, any,
Stuff like
no,
that, maybe?
not computers. It's going to be household hazardous waste, and these are things that are liquid or certain types of latex paints that can't go into the landfill, and people will have, and we can go up to $16,000. Now we got to, so it's going to be first come, first serve. When the contractor tells us we're out of money, we're out of money. But I just moved my mother-in-law out of a house that she'd lived in since the '60s, and there's a lot of stuff. Old fertilizers and all kinds of things that typically shouldn't go in the landfill. And we applied, and they granted us money to do so. So we do them in Amelia County on a regular basis. Those are hosted by Waste Management. That's where the idea came from, is the household hazardous waste days that we do in Amelia County.
They just bring them up here and you take care of it.
Contractor would take care of
Put them in Philip's office.
it. Store it, yeah,
Probably
exactly.
like the back of his truck.
So I don't know if 16,000 is going to go very far, but that's the budget, and that's as far as we can go. Okay.
Move to approve to accept the award in $16,902.50.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Nash and a second from Mr. Miller to accept this grant. I'll ask for a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 6-0.
And that day will be publicized when
Yeah.
all that comes around.
Chastity will have a good time with that. She's good at that sort of thing.
What
Next
contractors handling hazardous
I beg your
waste?
pardon, sir?
Sorry, it's beyond, if not too late to ask.
No, you're not. You have the floor.
What contractor or business is handling the hazardous waste that people bring?
A contractor, for example, would be the same kind of guy that we hired. I think it was Atlantic Waste, that when we cleaned out the town shop and sold it, there was 100 years of stuff in there, all kinds of old chemicals and chlorines and things for water treatment. And basically what they'll do is they'll bring them in, they'll classify it, they'll create a DMR, which is the list, and then they'll determine whether it needs to be overpacked or it can just be left on pallets. Overpacked means it comes in a big barrel and they put the stuff in the barrel and they screw it on there.
I'm just wondering how they're gonna determine when they get to the $16,902.
It's going to be a
You know, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how exactly, but we got a budget and then just got to tell them we got to quit when we get to $16,000.
Item number, we finished with that, Mr. Manager? Item number 10 is, I asked the council at the special call meeting to provide some goals and focus points, and I haven't heard from anybody, so if you could, please email the clerk, so maybe we can talk about this on the, is it the February 23rd meeting? Is that correct? 27th?
I think it's 27.
Apologies, I brought them with me. I didn't know we needed
Either
to
way,
email
get
I
them to
forgot
me
that
or
point.
email them. I just wanna,
February
it,
27th.
thank you. It's imperative to me, to coach y'all, to know what your focus is, what do we wanna get done, you know, what are some of the things you'd like to see done. So, if you don't mind, take a few minutes and let me know how you feel. That's all of our unfinished business. Ongoing projects, we'll start with, number 1, the dilapidated buildings. Mr. Manager?
At this time, we're waiting an order from Nottaway Court, Circuit Court, to permit entry onto 806 Fall Street to demolish a previously condemned building. The owner previously had agreed to allow the town to demolish the structure. He signed an agreement, however, he did not have his signature notarized, and we have not been able to reach him. We have his phone number. Tessie's actually hired a servicing company. They've not been able to find him. He's been unresponsive to any certified letters, and so last month, as you know, received authorization to go to court and have the circuit court order the building to be demolished. It's an old house. It's not an old house. It's a house we, huh?
Is it Clark's house?
Clark.
Clark, right.
Tree fell right through the middle.
Yeah.
We can't find him. A tree fell over and landed on it. But this is probably the more pressing matter. Additionally, staff's been working on an application to the Department of Housing and Community Development for a mixed use on Main Street grant. If successful, the grant would assist with the acquisition and stabilization of the old Dillard Crawley building. Some of you know it as the old Lucky Eights building, which has been declared blighted by staff. The owner has not performed any improvements based on the 2 certified letters we provided to him. Manager Van Orbeck's requesting authorization to submit an application to the Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $500,000 of grant monies without any matching fund from the town at this time. Chastity's working on the application. It would pay for acquisition and for stabilization of the structure. The mayor's been in the building with us. We've hired an appraiser who started working on an appraisal. The fire marshal inspected it last week. It's a fire hazard. It is a mess. And I don't expect that the property owner is going to, based on his performance in the past, will decide that he'd like to do anything. We'd like to make this application if we can get the dollars from the state for acquisition. Obviously, we'd like to press forward with acquiring the property on a fair market value based on appraisal. But first and foremost, before we move any farther, I'd like to ask council for authorization for Ms. Bryant to finish a up to $500,000 application for the acquisition and stabilization of the.
Council, I'm sorry. I mean, this is a softball question. This is an easy one here for you. We've had a couple toughies, but that building, it horrifies me that is there 6 existing businesses there that are
I think it
interconnected?
touches 6 additional properties all around it. Yeah.
I'd urge you to consider the manager's request.
So move.
Mr. Almond has moved to approve.
Second.
And Mr. Miller has seconded. It's $500,000. So here we go again. Roll call vote with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries
Thank you.
6-0. Number 2 is lodging tax, Mr. Manager.
I think Brittany's here if you have any questions, but as I see it, there's 1 new outstanding meals tax and 1 has been sent to the Taxing Authority Consulting Services that are working on it on meals tax. And I think the 1 outstanding has been paid yesterday. And as of December 20th, there are 4 outstanding lodging tax, and Treasurer Harris is working with the businesses. And we've received some payments from Airbnb, but they don't specify who they apply to. So I think that's what Brittany, Expedia has been doing also the same thing, and I think she's gotten the documents from Expedia. So we know who to apply those to, and now we're waiting Airbnb. Hopefully we'll get that very soon. We've received funds, but we can't say if it's for one particular Airbnb or another because they don't earmark or they don't itemize it on their payments.
Madam Treasurer, are you happy with this way this is coming along? Okay.
I received a response from Airbnb today, and they said hopefully this week they'll have the documentation.
You would have thought they would have already done that. I mean, that's just basic.
45 days, and you had to request submit an audit letter, and now I'm on the list, so it'll automatically be done, but it'll be done 30 days after payment each time, so it'll always be on.
It'll always be about.
Right.
But you won't, but they will provide you that, once you get this information,
Right,
you'll know
as
every
soon as
month.
they send the payment, they'll automatically get the documentation to send me who it's for within 30 days of the payment.
You have 2 new members here, and you call that tax? What do you call it that collects for our delinquent?
And what we've been doing,
You all understand if you have any questions.
limping along, we're using Tessie to do collections, and man, it takes a long time. It's hourly billing that she was billing to us. It really started with our real estate collections and sale of delinquent real estate properties. Mr. Elliott was taking a long time, and we wanted to accelerate the process, so we put out some procurement documents, and we found this company. We found them because they work in Amelia. And again, you don't want to know about Amelia, but they're Amelia's collection folks. And it really started on real estate, but when we interviewed them, we found out they'll do meals tax, they'll do business licenses, they'll do anything, and we don't pay their fees. Their fees are paid by the individual. So it's actually a cost-saving measure, I think, because we're not paying Tessie hourly to do these things. And I think they're specifically qualified to do this because I think that's what they do for municipal governments.
You guys good with that? Thanks for the brief on that. Street improvements?
Pardon?
Number 3, street improvements?
I think we've beat East End to death, so I don't think there's anything left to talk about tonight.
Nothing to report on Rigglesworth or the East End? Is that
No,
correct?